Hello and welcome to the Two Man Booth, your weekly scheduled podcast on the crazy world of professional wrestling. With me, Jonathan.
And me, Adam. And we will start this week as we always do with the news, and unfortunately the first thing we need to talk about is the fact that Paco Alonso, promoter of CMLL, sadly passed away last week at the age of 67. Paco had been running CMLL since taking over from his uncle in 1987. His daughter Sophia, who has been sort of the face of the promotion from like a corporate perspective for a while now, has taken over from Paco as president. She has big shoes to fill, and obviously our thoughts go out to her and the rest of Paco's family.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not a massive lover of Mexican wrestling, but I certainly know more about CMLL than AAA, just purely because of following Mystico's career way back when. Obviously, this is super sad, and our thoughts go out to the families of everybody involved.
And with that, we will move on to Will Ospreay. He missed day 4 of the G1 Climax due to injury and thus missed the undercard tag match he was booked in. He tweeted earlier on today saying he was in a huge amount of pain but would do his best to continue on in the G1. His next block match is scheduled for the 18th of July against also injured Kota Ibushi. Ibushi injured himself in his match against Kenta, which we'll get to later, but worked his block match on day 3 against Evil. So rough going for the G1 in terms of injuries so far. Really hope this doesn't affect Ospreay's run in this tournament.
Yeah, so far. And there's quite a few people that are starting to sort of highlight how some people within the company, not everyone in New Japan, but some of them, particularly Ibushi, is being highlighted, is starting to work extremely dangerous styles. Like some of the things that Ibushi is doing in the ring. Like, I think Ibushi is one of the best wrestlers in the world, but some of the things that he's starting to do are a little bit too risky. Like, remember the neck bump that he took against Naito?
The thing is, that's always been Ibushi though. Like, don't get me wrong, the Naito matches were particularly
bad for that.
Bad, but that was because you were putting Naito against Ibushi. They're both like that. But I don't think Ibushi's got any less safe. I think he's always been a dangerous worker, not in the sense that he was ever dangerous to anybody else, but he pushes his body. Works a real high impact style. But it is kind of ironic that people are saying that, because when you look at other wrestlers in the company, say take Will Ospreay for example, he's significantly toned down his
really
style,
has a lot.
And it's really been beneficial, I think, to him, because he's still able to have great matches. And honestly, I think he's probably better than he was before. And he doesn't have to land on his head 12 times a match.
Yeah, I agree. We've said this, and I think I can't see much changing. I think Will Ospreay has been the best wrestler in 2019.
Yeah,
like around the world. The only thing I will say about Ospreay is obviously if Ospreay is starting to gain injuries, like he's been flat out all year, and the last thing that I think anyone wants to see is Will Ospreay burn himself out.
Totally agree. So WWE have announced that next week's Raw, i.e. on the 22nd of July, will be an episode entitled Raw Reunion, which will see the return of many names such as Stone Cold, Ric Flair, HBK, and many, many more.
Yeah, this is interesting. It'll be cool, like these kind of Raws always are. It does feel like a desperate push for ratings, doesn't it? Speaking of Raw, before we move on as well, I have just noticed a new bit of news, and it's not massive, but it has been announced that Brock is going to be on Raw tonight.
All right.
Nothing massive.
Hadn't heard that.
Yeah, it's only a couple of minutes ago I've seen it reported. It's been reported by Cultaholic, but there's other news outlets that are also reporting it now. So Brock's going to be on Raw tonight.
Right. Interesting. So Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson have both re-signed with WWE. I think this is probably a smart move on their part, because I think they're getting paid a lot of money for this.
I'm surprised though.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised.
They've been treated pretty poorly throughout most of their run.
I think
only now with another club reunion have they now started to get some traction. We need to talk about like that as well at some point, how it makes very little sense. Like, if you look at the whole storyline, AJ's been saying like, come on guys, you've got to get going and like get serious. They've not really been serious and have still been sucking. And yet they came to AJ and went, well, like, you've done nothing lately. So AJ then decides to take their advice. But I think they never improved. Like, it just, like, everything feels so squashed in that whole storyline. It does.
I think they've done like 6 weeks. It's very Russo-ish in the
3
sense
months
of
TV.
Done so much in such a short period of time. But I do kind of get where they're coming from. I think the idea is that AJ was pushing them to rediscover their edge, and
But
they were
he needed
doing.
to rediscover his
But
own.
then he realized he needed to rediscover his own, and they all did it at the same time.
Yeah.
Rather than Gallows and Anderson rediscovering their edge and then AJ rediscovering it later on. Either way is fine to tell the story, but yeah they have told it very, very quickly.
But either way, good for Gallows and Anderson if they're going to get pushed and treated well, and hopefully this new incarnation of the club is treated well, which it has been so far. Then good for them. Because regarding the AEW tag division, they'd have certainly been good additions to it, but I'd never see them as like top names. Not as a tag team. Anderson on his own, certainly.
So, speaking of AEW, Britt Baker suffered a concussion during her tag match on the buy-in pre-show for Fight for the Fallen, and evidently MJF was injured too as he pulled out of an independent show on Sunday night.
Yeah.
Hopefully these injuries aren't too serious, although the reports that have come out have stated that it was quite a severe concussion for Britt Baker.
Yeah, so I'll talk about Britt Baker first. As long as she is okay and gets the proper treatment for the concussion, then we have no problems with that. And as long as she is okay and ready to come back to wrestling. And MJF, I really hope this is nothing, because he is one of the absolute brightest young stars for AEW, a future top heel moving forward, with also like a little bit of babyface crossover appeal, in the same way that like I always thought Adam Cole did, where Cole would still be Adam Cole, like he wouldn't change anything about himself, but yet you would just cheer him, kind of like Jericho. Like Jericho didn't always need to change that much about himself to get cheered or booed, just what he actually said. I think MJF could potentially have that same appeal.
So Jeff Hardy was arrested and later released on bond for public intoxication.
Oh, Jeff.
Yeah.
He's made such improvements. As soon as I saw this, I imagine I was the same as you. I just groaned. As soon as I saw it, I was just like, oh, come on, Jeff.
Yeah, you just want to see Jeff get
Keep
his life
stuff
together. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, he's a super talented dude, super creative dude, and
super charismatic.
Yeah, and you just, honestly, every time I see this, it just depresses you.
Like, is there anybody in the history of wrestling that you could attach what could have been to them more? Like, we always talk about Paul London, but think about if Jeff...
With Paul London, that's more from a skill to execution standpoint.
But think about Jeff, right? Think about if all the things hadn't happened. Jeff could literally have been like the face that John Cena became.
I'm not sure about that. I don't think he ever had pure top face quality. I think he had superstar quality to be the 1B to somebody's 1A.
Okay, I agree on that one.
Just because I don't think he has a very... It's weird with Jeff because he has a weird type of charisma.
Yeah. It's not talking charisma, but it's just... There always has been, but it's been lessened over time. But like there is an aura about Jeff.
Yeah, it's weird. I just would never have seen him as somebody you built your company around, but he definitely would have been that very, very close to number 1, number 2 babyface.
Heel Jeff could have been. Like
Yes.
Everything about the time period it was in, and
sucked.
all of the rubbish around
45-minute promos.
But heel Jeff in TNA was absolutely brilliant because it was just like Raven. Raven Jeff Hardy.
Yeah. So Enzo Amore and Joey Janela. I feel like we have to talk about the situation.
Do I have to talk about Enzo? He sucks.
They were evidently at a Blink-182 concert, and
I feel sorry for Blink.
Yeah, Joey Janela apparently approached Enzo, and there's video, and they have some kind of like fist fight thing that's not really a fight, and it's kind of pathetic, and just why?
No idea.
Yeah.
No, genuinely no idea.
I felt like we had to mention it, but I feel like we should just
move on quickly. Yeah, good, because anything Enzo Amore related, I care little for.
So Yun Akiyama will step down as president of All Japan Pro Wrestling in October.
Interesting and
to
surprising.
Focus on his in-ring career at this stage.
Really, Jun? Like,
life.
bear in mind, like Akiyama's absolute peak, I would probably label
2005.
Earlier than that. Like in terms of like Akiyama's like absolute peak of his in-ring career, I would go between 99 and about 2004. Like I think that was Akiyama's peak in terms of just putting on great matches. In 99 in particular, like people obviously look at Akiyama now and question what happened to him. Akiyama was just a a sufferer of bad booking. Really, like Noah, as great as it was plagued by bad booking throughout most of its existence. And Akiyama was the absolute worst at that, because he was absolutely a star, had all of the charisma, had an aura about him, beat Misawa for the belt as he should have, and then they just ruined so many things about him. There's obviously, I always talk about to you, don't I, the Tokyo Dome show, where he faced Kenta Kobashi in the main event for the title. Kobashi was going through his record-breaking run, but realistically had no need to continue that, and Akiyama should have won in front of a huge crowd in the Tokyo Dome in the main event and been confirmed as the ace. And they just didn't do it. And
what happened in Kobashi's next defense?
He lost here. At some point, I think we should. I'll do a final segment about like why Noah failed, because I could probably fill about 15, 20 minutes talking about why Noah didn't succeed in the way that it should have.
So LAX have finished up with Impact, and reading between the lines, it seems like Johnny Mundo has done the same. A bit of a shame for the promotion, as all three are great, but it'll be interesting to see where they all end up. Apparently, LAX have offers from both AEW and NXT, and, well, I'm pretty sure Mundo could walk into pretty much any promotion he wants to at the minute. It just depends on what he wants to do with... From what I can gather, he still wants to be a movie star, so...
Yeah.
Maybe WWE won't be the right fit, but maybe they'll give him the kind of schedule and opportunities that he wants... now that they know everybody can potentially go to AEW, and
or they give him like the Ziggler. Like Ziggler can pretty much do his comedy stuff and then come in for like runs, like Jericho, basically. I think LAX is in a weird way, I think LAX is a bigger loss than Mundo.
Yes,
I love Mundo.
I would agree with that.
But I think LAX have been a more fundamental part of Impact.
They're a pillar of that tag division. Yeah,
and Mundo's been kind of, over the last 6 months, obviously this may be foreshadowing, really, that we haven't noticed. He's been pushed over into like the X Division. He faced Swan,
which
the
we'll
X Division title at Slammiversary, and he wasn't really as featured as heavily as he had been, and maybe that's coming. We will talk obviously during Slammiversary about who, I don't know about you, but who I think the company should be building around moving forward. It's undeniable.
And we've got
see what I did there? Did you see what I did there?
I saw.
That was so subtle.
Yeah.
Subtle.
So we've got another bit of sad news to end the news on, and that is the fact that Jack Sexsmith has sadly announced his retirement from wrestling due to persistent knee injuries. We were both big fans of Sexsmith, and to see another promising career cut short is a shame. I feel like there's been a few of these recently, because who was it that retired? Oh,
Kid Lykos.
Because,
funny enough, you mentioned that CCK would appear to have reformed. Progress have just announced, so this is very, very, very hot off the press. Chapter 93 at the Electric Ballroom, on the 28th of July, CCK will face the South Pacific Power Trip.
Awesome.
It's not TK and Travis Banks. I don't know his name, which irritates me. It's the other member of the South Pacific Power Trip.
And TK.
The new CCK, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Calamari Catch Kings.
Yeah.
Right. So Brooks.
Yeah.
Will
Gresham.
now be tagging with Gresham.
Yeah. They've tagged a bit in WXW and stuff like that.
How awesome's that?
Yeah, Gresham's great.
Yes,
super underutilized dude.
Yes.
But yeah, sort of...
Sorry, yes. Anyway,
sad about Sexsmith, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to get off track. I sort of loved Sexsmith for multiple reasons. He was a really good wrestler. Really, really was clearly developing. If I was them, and I think they may have been, I'd have pushed him towards the title. I think he would have been a great Progress champion. And I also loved Sexsmith for what he stood for. Just obviously, I don't want to go too into the ethics and all that kind of stuff, but I just love what he stood for. And
totally,
it
100%.
doesn't matter all of the labels about you as a person. All that matters is who you are as a person, and are you a good, nice person.
So that does it for the news. So I guess we'll tell you what the show's going to kind of be about, because we've got quite a few to rattle off our belt.
Because we are very much catching up, aren't we?
Yeah, so this episode, we are going to review day one of the G1 Climax from Dallas. We are going to review Slammiversary, and we will obviously talk any other business, and then we will review in the final segment
Prog on the Tyne.
Yeah, Prog on the Tyne, which we attended last Saturday. We obviously will then return to a regularly scheduled programming with the regular weekly episode, which will sort of cover all the WWE shows. And then we will do an Extreme Rules podcast talking about that, and within that we will sort of not do a full review of Fight for the Fallen and Evolve, but we will discuss what happened in an element of detail.
Yeah, it's always good to counter program
Yeah, well, ironic.
A charity event.
So we will start with the G1 Climax.
Yep.
And so, like we said, this emanated from Dallas, and we're not going to do let's talk about that first.
Attendance was not good. Like,
no, what was it? About 4,000 paid, about 4.5 in the building.
Yeah, not good. So the thing is, like, about 2 years ago, this would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But I think they obviously expected much, much more, and it would have been okay had they booked a smaller building. But for the building that they'd booked, the American Airlines Arena, this looked really, really bad. It did not look good.
And the thing is,
the hard cam caught a lot of
yeah, well, because they didn't cover any of it up, because that's a very Japanese thing to do. They don't do what WWE do in this country. They do in the States rather. They don't tape off parts of the building. They don't hang curtains or anything to cover it up so it doesn't look as bad. They just go, well, this is the arena.
This is it.
They don't move everybody to the hard cam or anything like that.
When the Tokyo Dome was drawn badly, and you saw that it was drawn badly, that was it.
Which is ironic considering the elevated attendance figures we've gotten over the years, shall we say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Whereas now we have, like, legit. It's strange. But yeah, so attendance was not good, and that is concerning moving forward. I think
AEW's hurt them a lot.
It has. Like, we cannot now underestimate how important the Elite clearly were, particularly Kenny Omega. Like, that's the biggest loss.
I definitely agree, and I'm not taking away from how important the Elite were to New Japan's drawing power in the States. But I think the other thing that's hurt them is not so much the fact that the Elite have left, but more the fact that the Elite have gone somewhere else. If the Elite weren't working and AEW wasn't a thing, I think New Japan would have drawn a lot better. But I think people are now looking at it going,
the fans have moved.
Yeah, because I don't think there's enough casual fans of New Japan to draw
fan.
Really well.
Yeah.
So if you're a hardcore fan, chances are you're into AEW as well, and you are now having to make a decision between, okay, I'm from Philadelphia, I'm going to fly to Chicago for All Out. That means I can't really afford to fly to Dallas for G1, or I flew to Las Vegas for Double or Nothing. I can't really justify another fly out of state to Dallas to go and see the G1 show.
And it's a shame because New Japan is my company, but I totally understand that, and I can see. But I think that New Japan has more than the pieces required to rebuild. Like, I can see where they should be pushing.
I don't even think they're necessarily in a bad position. I think domestically they're doing really well. It's just slowed their international expansion a lot.
But that's the thing. I'm not sure that they need to, like, now with AEW, the American market is going to become so saturated.
Yeah.
If I was them, I'd just reevaluate, and I'd be like, look, let's try and return to what we were in the 90s. Like, we will be mainstream in Japan. Like, if I was them, I'd be looking now to, like, look, let's reevaluate. Let's not try and take over the world of wrestling and compete with WWE. Let AEW do that. We will just focus on Japan, and we will once again become mainstream.
And I'm not even saying that they need to stop their international expansion completely. I think they just need to slow it.
On it. Yeah.
Yeah. If they run one big show a year in the States, I think they'll probably end up drawing really well, because people will go, this is my only chance to see New Japan this year. Whereas how many times will they have ran in the US by the end of the year? They're doing 3 shows for the Super J Cup in August. They did this show. They did some new beginning shows that they had all the visa problems with. They did MSG. You're gonna be talking probably 7 or 8 shows by the end of the year, and that's if they don't run any more. So I just think that they just probably need to slow down the expansion.
Yeah. Absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Absolutely. But anyway, on with the show. We won't be reviewing any of the undercard matches, just the block matches. So in that sense, we opened with Lance Archer versus Will Ospreay.
Wow.
Ospreay hit a Spanish Fly immediately. He followed with a top rope corkscrew moonsault to the floor. He then hit a springboard 450 splash or 2. And then he went for a Sasuke special, but Archer caught him and chokeslammed him over the barricade through a table. Just an incredible start. This is what I love about New Japan, is every match is different. Like,
totally. You never will see the same match.
You know, when people say, oh, this is just the standard formulaic WWE tag team match or whatever, or even North American, because a lot of other North American companies do exactly the same thing. And yes, New Japan does definitively have a style, especially for the main event matches. But if you put it all depends on who you put in what position.
In terms of the build of the match, but like in terms of the way that it's worked, not always. Like, you know, if you have Omega in there, and Tana and Okada, obviously that's way back when, but you know, and Tana and Misu, like they'll be totally different matches, but built kind of the same. And
it's incredible when you put it in. They just did something totally different here. Ospreay went balls to the wall from the start, nearly picked up a big victory. I wondered if they were going to do a normal squash match, and then obviously Archer caught him on the Sasuke special and chokeslammed him through the table.
Spot was awesome.
Yeah. So Archer hit old school on Ospreay, having rope walked half of the ring. Seriously,
impressive.
So,
that might be the best old school I've ever seen.
Yeah, because he went from corner to corner and then halfway to the next corner.
Yeah, the only
person, incredible.
Only person I've seen do it better than that is Hakushi.
Yeah,
Hakushi used to do an amazing old skill.
Just kind of incredible. So Archer got the heat until Ospreay hit a handspring enziguri for a double down. He hit a top rope RM1 and followed with a springboard forearm for a near fall. Ospreay avoided the pounce in an awesome way, but Archer then caught him with one before hitting a buckle bomb in the last ride. He then hit an apron bomb before leading Ospreay up the ramp, but it came back to haunt him as Ospreay reversed the last ride attempt into a code red. They both barely beat the count, and Ospreay hit a springboard dropkick on Archer as soon as he slid in. He followed with a shooting star for 2. The Robinson special followed, and eventually an Oscutter for a nice near fall. Ospreay went for the Stormbreaker but couldn't hit it, so hit Kawada kicks instead. Archer caught Ospreay on the top and hit a muscle buster for 2. He followed with the blackout, but Ospreay kicked out. Archer locked on the Iron Claw in Dallas, which was cool, but Ospreay got to the ropes. Archer brought Ospreay to the top and went for a top rope choke slam, but at the last minute Ospreay turned it into an absolutely insane top rope Spanish fly for 2. Like, the fact that Archer can take that move was just incredible. Yeah. It's probably the biggest size differential I've seen in a Spanish fly ever. I'm not 100% sure how it worked. Ospreay went for the Stormbreaker, but they trade reversals into hole. Ospreay hit a couple of hook kicks. Ospreay went up top, but Archer hit the jumping knee strike and followed with blackout from the very top before locking on the Iron Claw and pinning Ospreay in the hold. This was great, and I would say probably the best match of Lance Archer's career.
Yeah, I think for me this is up there in terms of, like, I don't mean carry job in that way, but just like someone taking someone that's not a great wrestler and having a great match. Like, I think this was better than, and I always talk about it, the Nakamura strongman match. Like, from the G1, where, like, genuinely Nakamura got a really good match, like a 3.5 star match out of strongman. This was way better than that. Yeah. Like, this is the best. I don't want carry job's not the word. Yeah, but I can't think of it.
Because Archer played his part. He was very good in the match. But
taking a wrestler that's not known for his in-ring skill.
Yeah, I would not have. Match. If you told me Lance Archer was going to have a match of this quality in this year's G1 at the start of the year, I'm not sure I would have believed you.
Yeah. Before we move on, by the way, ultra new news. Dark Order are going to be at Progress.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Interesting.
Cool. So next up on the show, we had Evil versus Bad Luck Fale. Fale won an outside of the ring battle early and nearly won by count out. He then proceeded to dominate the early goings until Evil hit a scoop slam on the big man. Both men tried to use chairs outside the ring, with Evil eventually wrapping the chair around Fale's neck and sending him into the post. A Bronco Buster then got 2. Fale fought back and hit the splash for a near fall. Fale and the ref battled over a chair, which led to Evil kicking it into Fale's face and following with a lariat for 2. Fale blocked everything as Evil and went for the grenade. It was reversed, but he eventually hit it for a super near fall. Evil slipped out of a bad luck fall attempt, but a lariat on Fale caused a ref bump too. Evil tried to use chairs, but Fale hit a low blow instead before wrapping a chair around Evil's neck and hit him with the other chair. The bad luck fall followed for the win. This was not good. No. Fale is super limited, and there was just way too much shenanigans in this match for my taste.
Too much, didn't like it, and it was a bad luck Fale match.
It was really
Eagle's great, but you know what can you do?
One bad spot on the show. It was just, I did not like it at all.
Agreed. Moving on.
So next up we had Sonata versus Zack Sabre Jr. They did some indescribably awesome chain wrestling to start with, leading to a stalemate. They then did another incredible segment, which I cannot do justice to. I tried to take notes on this, but I couldn't feasibly, like, the notes would have been 7 years long if I tried to put in every move they'd done, and it was just absolutely incredible, and it led to another standoff. Zack managed to block the Paradise Lock twice. The second time he pushed Sonata off into an armbar. Zack continued to work the arm, including a Kimura in the ropes, but Sonata avoided a kick to the arm and locked in the Paradise Lock in the ropes, which was cool. Sabre locked on an octopus hold that Sonata eventually fought through. Sonata went for a TKO, but Sabre locked on a hanging guillotine. Sonata countered into a draping neckbreaker and then a TKO, but the Muto moonsault missed. He got a backslide for 2, but ZSJ immediately hit a PK. Zack went for the Zack driver, but Sonata countered into the swinging skull end. He went for the moonsault again, but Zack got the knees up and transitioned into a triangle. Sonata powered out and looked for a powerbomb, but ZSJ hit a Pele at the bad arm. Sonata fought back with a moonsault into skull end, but Sabre fought out into a European clutch. They trade pinfall attempts, and Sonata wins with the prawn hold. Sabre destroys the ref post-match. Another absolutely great match. Sabre is just phenomenal, and Sonata kept up with him every step of the way. Just great stuff. Like, this was just a match where I'm not sure, like, how many percentage of their moves actually worked, if you know what I mean. It was just pure counter wrestling. Everybody went for like a hold or a move, and the other just countered out of it.
Special,
and it was just constant.
Yeah,
like did they hit 10% of the moves? Possibly not. I don't know, but it was
just chain wrestling, pretty much effectively.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. And then Sonata beat Zack at his own game.
Yeah. It was absolutely brilliant, and very few people beat Zack at his own game.
And you know what? Sometimes when you see a match like this, and Sabre's good enough that you can make anybody look good doing this style, but you'll be able to tell that Zack's leading the match, and he's very much more comfortable doing the style than the other guy, and he's just making the other guy look good. That was not the case in this match. Sonata was just toe for toe as good technically as Sabre was in this match. It was great.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So next up we had Kota Ibushi versus Kenta.
Right,
so
here we go.
We see a shot of the legendary Katsuyori Shibata, who is kind of being cited as commentary as somewhat of a mentor to Kenta, which I thought was kind of interesting.
Kind of, yeah. So they had when Shibata left New Japan under very much a cloud in 2005 to go and form Big Mouth Loud, a shoot style promotion, sort of a shoot style promotion, kind of was nothing by the end. When that failed, he then had a spell in Noah. In Noah, they formed the team called Takeover, which is why you always see the Takeover T-shirt.
Yeah,
and they obviously struck up a friendship there, and I think that's where that's come from.
Yeah, and commentary kind of was putting that over as, you know, Shibata was the guy who got Kenta into New Japan and stuff like that, and so Kenta's taken a lot of inspiration from Shibata, and he worked very much like Shibata here.
They've been very similar though for years.
Just but Kenta was always
Kenta's like less grounded.
Yeah, he was more grounded in this match, I felt, and I felt it was definitely more of a Shibata style match. So they teased strikes early, but then worked some ground stuff until Kenta slapped Ibushi in the ropes. Ibushi responded with an even harder slap. The fans were just losing their minds at this point. Kenta cut Ibushi off, landed some strikes, and hit a hanging knee drop from the second rope. Kenta wore Ibushi down with strikes, and they had some strike battles. Ibushi fought back and landed the roll-through moonsault for 2. Kenta cut him off with a nice leg lariat though. Ibushi blocked an attempted top rope tornado DDT and went for the second rope deadlift German, but Kenta fought out. Ibushi sent him in sort of to the floor with a Pele. He went for a plancha but got caught by Kenta. Kenta draped Ibushi over the barricade and landed a sort of sick-looking double stomp to the back of Kota's neck. Kenta wanted the count out, but Ibushi beat the count, and Kenta immediately ran wild with a springboard missile dropkick and then the stalling corner dropkick followed by a brutal-looking double stomp for a near fall. Kenta set up for go to sleep, but Ibushi fought out and decapitated him with a lariat. Ibushi hit a quick version of the Golden Star Powerbomb for 2, and then Kenta reversed the Kamagoye into the go to sleep position, but Ibushi rolled through into a crucifix for 2. They lariated each other, and then Kenta landed the Busaiku knee, but both men went down. They traded strikes until Kenta landed a head kick for a near fall. He brutalized Ibushi with head kicks and got another near fall, and then he hit the go to sleep and pinned Ibushi. He helped Ibushi up, and both men sort of showed their respect post-match. This was awesome.
Yeah, it was a good match. I totally agree. And I would never say that Kenta's not a good wrestler or anything like that. But I'm going to now show a little bit of my New Japan traditionalist, and I'm going to have a little bit of a rant about why Kenta is not a heavyweight. Kenta is not a heavyweight, okay?
You do realise that Will Ospreay's in this tournament, don't you?
I know. But my good friend Sal Paradise from the Producer Fan Forums will very much agree with me here. Kenta is not a heavyweight. It's not so much his bulk. It's more his height, okay? He's small, but it's his height as well, and he looks so much smaller. So, for example, I've seen footage. I haven't seen the match, but I've seen footage from his match against Tanahashi. Tanahashi is not a tall wrestler, but he's also bulky, and Kenta looks so small.
I have seen that match, and that match was also awesome.
I'm sure it was. No, and I'm not disagreeing. And I know that New Japan have done a lot of different things regarding weight classes like Sabre and things like that, but they very much put Sabre over as like, yeah, he's not a heavyweight, but he can hang with the heavyweights because of this. Okay? I disagreed with Noah when Noah gave Kenta the heavyweight title because he wasn't a heavyweight. He never looked like one. They just pushed him because he was kind of all they had left. And I don't agree with it. I don't mind Kenta being there, but I've never bought Kenta as a sole heavyweight. I've seen him wrestle against people like Yuji Nagata and look small, Go Shiozaki and look small. Like, dear me, way back when I saw him wrestle against like Kenta Kobashi and look practically minuscule. I know things have changed.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly.
He's not a heavyweight.
I'm going to disagree with you slightly because, yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head. Times have changed. And I think New Japan...
Not so much, though.
Yeah, they kind of have, though, because in times past, Ospreay winning Best of the Super Juniors and going into the G1 would just not have happened unless he was going to be completely crushed. Like, did Liger do the G1 in like 2000 and get destroyed? Or have I made that up in my head?
No, he faced the heavyweight champion.
Is that what I'm thinking?
Not destroyed, but he got beaten.
Yeah, and it was after he'd beaten the whole junior heavyweight division. But that was very much sort of...
Koji Kanemoto got the semis of the G1 in like 2006.
Right.
And lost, I think it was the semis. Could be the final. And got beaten by, I think, Tanner. But either way, I know Kanemoto got to either the semis or the final of the G1 when he was still a junior. So there was a precedence for it. There was a precedence for the junior heavyweight champ or ace being in the G1. And I know I'm very much nitpicking, but this has been something that's a lot of people have mentioned for years. Like, I don't dislike Kenta. I think he's a really good wrestler. There was a lot of people on the Pure Fan forum that I was part of who couldn't stand him. I never agreed with that.
But the thing is, I think what that came down to is when the era you're talking about, sort of the late 2000s, before we hit the 2010s.
Times hadn't changed that much.
That was still the case back then because you still had the legacy, and not that we don't have the legacy now, but the legacy was still super fresh of Kobashi and Mizawa still actually kind of being around.
Tanner was a small heavyweight.
Exactly. Whereas now, you look at Tanner and he's just regular. Like, Marufuji was very much in the Kenta boat, because that was the whole thing. Noah went with Kenta versus Marufuji in a massive match, which should have been a massive main event for them. And if it was the United States or wherever else, it would have drawn super well. And how did that show draw?
No, well,
terribly.
They were juniors.
Yeah, because there were juniors fighting over the heavyweight title.
Or they were looked at as juniors. The problem is Marufuji wasn't booked properly. Again, another Noah thing.
But if you look at Marufuji now, his legacy is that everybody in the Noah heavyweight division works Marufuji's style.
Yeah.
Everything in the main event is a Marufuji style match.
Marufuji's whole thing was height. Like, he could bulk up and still work the same style. It was just all about height with Marufuji. Like, when you put him next to Akiyama, he looked tiny.
If they'd put Kenta in the G1 in 2000 or 95 or whenever, I would have totally agreed with you. I just think times have changed, and I don't think it's as big a deal to the majority of the New Japan audience anymore. I really don't.
I need to watch more of the matches.
Yeah.
In terms of how he's wrestling first before I make a judgment.
They're very strike heavy. Yeah.
See, that was how he always worked against the
It's- it-
heavies,
it-
and he
it's-
always got his backside handed to him because that's the whole point.
He's a bit more grounded than he was. He's very much strike and hold heavy, essentially now.
Okay.
But anyway, we then move on to an absolutely phenomenal main event that we're definitely going to have no disagreements about, as Kazuchika Okada took on Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Well, this was never going to suck, was
Can
it?
I just make a note? I know we didn't bury the audience, but we said how attendance was poor. But the audience was great all night. The 4,500 that were there made incredible amounts of noise.
I did hear there was a small element. I think that was from Meltzer.
Right.
I did hear that there was a small element, not massive, but like a small element of people, like 100 people or so, Meltzer said, I think, that weren't playing along with the show, put it that way.
Well, everybody was playing along for this main event because the crowd, like, the one thing I always think of when I see a reaction like this is, do you remember the Wyatts versus the Shield at Elimination Chamber? And I want to say 2014.
They just gone the
They hadn't even talked yet. It was exactly the same here. They weren't chanting, "This is awesome," because it's New Japan, but the crowd was just going absolutely nuts, and you could almost, like, you could feel it. I could feel it coming through my TV as I was watching it. They just were absolutely, they were like, my God, I'm seeing Okada Tana in front of me face live. I never thought I'd see this.
It is the generational rivalry of the last 15 years in wrestling.
Okada was slightly more over than Tana, but they were just both super over.
Yeah.
They tease big moves early before neither man can get the upper hand. Okada hits a dropkick on Tana, sending him from the top rope to the floor, and then hits a spike DDT on the floor, but Tana beats the count. Okada takes control and even uses the dragon screw leg whip against Tana. Not a smart move.
No.
Tana catches Okada with one of his own, and both men are down. Tana runs wild until Okada fights back. Tana catches Okada with the dragon screw between the ropes, but when he gets back in, Okada hits a flapjack and both men went down again. Tana hits a dropkick to the knee, but gets caught with the air raid crash neck breaker. Okada hits the slam and an elbow drop. He hits the Rainmaker pose and Tana pulls him through into a pinfall, similar to the result of a victory roll. It probably will have a name, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. Okada kicks out at 2 and Tana immediately hits a grounded dragon screw. He locks on the cloverleaf, but Okada gets to the ropes, but then Tana hits another grounded dragon screw. Okada rolls to the outside and Tana heads up top and hits just an absolutely stunning, when you consider his knees are made of dust basically at this point, but an absolutely stunning high fly floor to Okada on the floor. They battle back and forth. Tana hits twist and shout. Okada hits a shotgun dropkick. Tana hits the sling blade, but Okada nails him with a picture-perfect dropkick. He hits the tombstone, but Tana reverses the Rainmaker into a sling blade. Tana hits a high fly floor to a standing Okada and follows up with the regular high fly floor, but at the last second, Okada got his knees up. Okada avoids the sling blade and black slides Tana through into a Rainmaker. He keeps a hold of the wrist and hits another. He picks Tana up and goes for the full Rainmaker, but Tana gets a small package instead for 2.99999. He follows with the Dragon Suplex for another ridiculous near fall. They counter each other and Tana hits a series of hard slaps to break wrist control, but gets caught with the spinning tombstone, and then the full Rainmaker follows for the pin and the win. What else would you expect from these two? This was just utterly, utterly fantastic. Not the best match they've ever had against each other, but it was so great that you just go, it's just a great match. You don't go, it's only the 7th best Tana Okada match. No, it's just a phenomenal match.
Yeah, because they've always had great matches. From their very first match, they've always had great matches. They've never had a bad one. They've never even had an average one.
I don't know, I don't know whether I need to rewatch it, but I remember really being in the minority and not liking Wrestle Kingdom 10 all that much.
Oh, it wasn't bad. You're just, I mean,
was it 10 or was it 9?
It's 9, and the only reason you're thinking that 9 wasn't as good is literally because it had to follow Nakamura Ibushi.
Yes, that's
like,
the one.
You know, like, you can't follow perfection. Like, did Meltzer give that 5, didn't he?
I think he did, yeah.
Yeah, like, you can't follow perfection. It's hard.
So a really, really good show from New Japan. Really good start to the G1. We obviously aren't going to be able to cover every G1 show like this, but I am fully up to date apart from I haven't watched Day 4 yet. I'm planning on watching it some point tomorrow.
Yeah, I need to catch up a lot.
I've watched the first 3 days. It's been 3 great shows, really. Day A block's definitely the one that's delivering. Day 1 in Dallas, as we've just covered, was fantastic. Day 3 was really, really good as well. So the B block's good, don't get us wrong, but the A block is the thing that's carrying
A block's where it's
and
at,
they're doing a lot of interesting booking at the minute. It'll be really interesting to see what direction they're going. I mean, Naito's on 0 points after 2 matches. Ibushi's on 0 points after 2 matches. Jay White's on 0 points after 2 matches. There's a lot of really... Tanner's on 0 points after 2 matches. Kenta's on 4. Moxley's on 4. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on.
Yeah, there's no way Kenta makes the final though.
No, but I think he does really well.
So do I.
I think he's in the mix going into the last day probably.
Yeah, I think he's like the one that loses on the last day. But I don't think he'll be the one that goes in as like the leader.
No,
but I think he'll be like was it last year that Evil did?
Yeah, I think it was Evil. Yeah,
whoever it was, or Sonada, they went in like still realistically like having a shot.
Yeah,
but you knew that they probably weren't.
Recently,
but they lost.
They've done a lot where 3 people go into the final day with a chance. Like the Goto kind of backed into the finals because he won his match, and then Tanner and Okada drew.
Yeah. I always love the I always like it when the blocks are different. Like I don't always like it when both blocks it's like, oh, who's gonna make it? Like one of my favorite G1s is the year that Nakamura literally won every single match on his way through the block. Like Nakamura went undefeated through the block, beat everyone, and then lost in the final. Like I loved that G1 because you had no drama at all in Nakamura's half. It was like, well, Nakamura's going through, and then in the other one you had all the drama in the world with Makabe getting through. I was like there'd be little bit of difference with the blocks. I don't like the whole, who'll go in on the final day, because you can kind of just look at who's in the matches and figure it out.
Yeah. So with that, we will move on to another really good show in Impact Wrestling Slammiversary.
You know what? We keep saying it. Like genuinely, people
hashtag watch Impact.
Hashtag watch Impact, because God, don't hashtag watch Raw. Hashtag watch SmackDown.
Hey, we'll get that on a coming podcast.
Yeah, God, don't.
So we opened with Willie Mack versus TJP versus Trey Miguel versus Jake Christ in a 4-way. This was a very X Division style multi-man early, in a good way.
Yeah, not a lot of selling, but a lot of action.
Yeah, Willie hits a moonsault on TJP for a near fall. TJP managed to lock Willie and Jake in a hold, but Trey hit a neck breaker on TJP, which took everyone out. Willie hit a plancha on TJP, but then got took out with a suicide DDT. Trey took out everyone with a running springboard tornado. There was a really innovative spot as they continually teased the Tower of Doom, but TJP eventually gave up and locked on a Romero special on Trey, and then Jake slipped in between the gap in the Romero special and started to pin TJP. So Willie, who was still left on sort of the top rope from the Tower of Doom tease, comes off the top and double stomps everybody. It was very, very cool, very innovative. Jake hits an impressive Death Valley driver on Mac for a near fall. TJP hits a lovely leg capture Saito on Christ and follows with an ankle lock until Trey breaks it up with a diving Meteora. Jake hits a top rope cutter on Trey, but immediately gets caught with a top rope flog splash from Mac, who picks up the win. This was a fun opener with probably the right winner.
Yeah, really, really enjoyed it as well. Fantastic start to open the show. And just like we say, Impact is really, they're booked very smartly.
So we see how the North ended up in sort of the tag title match by defeating LAX a couple of days before this show. So we then cross to Melissa Santos, who asks the North about their surprise win on Friday. They get annoyed and say it is no surprise. It was a pretty good promo from Paige and Alexander. The North then came down for the match, as did LAX and the Rascals. The North talked trash to Conan at the beginning, which led to LAX knocking them off the apron and Irish whipping the Rascals into suicide dives on the North. There was an awesome spot where Paige and Wentz were battling up top, and LAX hit a double team elevated flatliner, and Paige just scoop slammed Wentz onto the pinfall attempt before. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Alexander hit a moonsault slam on Xavier, and Paige followed with a swanton bomb for a sweet near fall. The match was going great up until this point, and then it just totally fell apart. LAX were hitting some great double teams, but then Alexander pushes Santana onto the ramp from the top rope, and Santana starts selling his leg. This distracts the ref and Ortiz as Josh Matthews stumbles all over his words. Alexander pins Ortiz and the referee counts 3 times, but then Ortiz kicks out and the referee calls it a 2. The crowd just completely died by this point. The North hit a double team style clash on Ortiz, but Wentz makes a save too. Wentz tries to fight both guys, but eventually they overcome him. They whip him into the ropes, and are on the perfect camera angle for what comes next. So, of course, they cut to a totally different angle, and we essentially miss Xavier doing some crazy dive from the stage into the ring to take out the North.
Production was quite poor several times through the night.
There was. Regardless, we then see them do the nice push moonsault onto Ortiz. We were again on the perfect angle to see Paige powerbomb Xavier onto the pile. So again, they cut away and we practically miss it.
This is something that used to happen like way back when in TNA pay-per-views as well. Like literally like 15 years ago, they were making the exact same mistakes.
The problem is, like 15 years ago, I remember them making mistakes, but it would just be they'd be at the wrong camera angle at the wrong time. This time, they were at the right camera angle, and they kept cutting away from it just when they needed to be at that camera angle.
Like I remember Alvarez telling her like a really funny story about how the can't remember what pay-per-view it is. It's like in 06, where there's 3 guys going for stereo dives to the outside. They cut to one and miss it. Then they cut to the second one and just miss it. And then they cut to the third one and just miss it. So like each thing that they try to do, they still manage to screw up somehow.
So the North then pin Ortiz on the back of that mess. This was going along great and then completely fell apart from the Santana injury angle, which I suppose was just to write LAX out.
I would assume so.
But from that point on over, it just completely fell apart. And then post-match, Ortiz and the Rascals helped Santana to the back.
Yeah, it's one of those where like when you've lost the crowd that quick, just go home.
Yeah,
you know, like end it. And they had. Apart from that, it was a really, really good match.
Yeah,
just
up until the point where it fell apart. I was genuinely sitting there going, this is going along great. You know, I'm really looking forward to the finishing stretch because this could be a really, really good match. And then it fell apart. Yeah. Which is a shame. So Sami Callihan cuts a selfie promo saying he is treating Tess as an equal. He's just the good guy in this scenario.
Sammy's been awesome in the feud, by the way. Like I'm going to talk a lot about how great Tessa is. And Tessa is amazing. But Sammy has been so good as a heel.
100%. So their match tonight will now be the main event.
Great decision as well. Like,
yeah, totally agree.
Say, really good decision. Genuine, like
it was when you look at the crowd reaction through the night, and the crowd was into pretty much everything on the show.
Tessa's the most over person in the company.
That was what they were there to see.
Yeah, and Tessa is the most over person in the whole company. And we'll talk about Tessa later, but like they made the right choice.
Yeah. So next up we had the first blood match between Eddie Edwards and Killer Kross. The promo video to this, as someone who is kind of been following Impact but not to a significant degree, contains some absolutely awesome stuff and some absolutely awful stuff. And by the way, this was my biggest nitpick of the night. You should never ever say wrestling is fake on a wrestling show. It just kills any story you're trying to tell. Just
kayfabe.
Don't do that. And they did that in this video promo. I think it was a promo from Impact, and I can't remember the exact words because I've not written that part of the video package down, but it was something to the effect of, well, on Sunday at Slammiversary, we're not going to have a fake wrestling match. We'll have a real fight. And that's just like, I hate stuff like that. I really do.
Wrestling's still real to me, damn it.
Well, I don't want to be told that the show I'm watching is fake. Like, I don't want Scarlett Johansson in the middle of the Avengers to just turn around and go,
"This is fake."
Yeah. Hey, wait, this is a fake show. But if you watch later, me and Thanos are going to have an actual real fight.
Not in like a Deadpool kind of way. Yeah. Wink, wink, wink.
Yeah, they wouldn't mind it if it was DDT, but this is meant to be a serious wrestling promotion.
It's serious.
Yeah. So they brawl around the ringside area until Kross absolutely destroys Edwards with a choke bomb to the edge of the ring apron. How Eddie's back was not broken off this, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Eddie fights back, but when he goes for a tope suicida, Kross throws a chair in his face. He follows with an awkward-looking gut-wrench suplex from the apron onto a pile of chairs on the floor. Kross teases Eddie with the kendo stick and then looks for a back suplex from the top rope to the ramp. Eddie fights out and crotches Kross on the ropes before hitting the Boston Knee Party. He tries to use the kendo stick, but Kross fights him off and tries to lock on a choke. Eddie counters and hits the Gibson driver on the floor. Eddie hits successive Boston Knee Parties before picking up the kendo stick again. He breaks it in half and shoves the stick into Kross's mouth. Blood appears from Kross's mouth and this match is over. This was okay. The one thing I will say is I may have been more into it if I'd watched the full story, but it was just kind of that I had a lot of Janela Moxley vibes from this match. It wasn't as well worked as that.
No.
but a lot of like, okay,
violence
they're doing a lot of violent stuff, but I'm not sure. I don't
It has
care
been,
enough.
It has been a fairly heated feud, so
Yeah.
like, it does more than warrant it.
That's why I was thinking I probably like this less than
Yeah.
people who followed the product.
And it's obviously part of like the massive storyline of like the downfall of Eddie Edwards and all of this, and it has been booked fairly well. It's just like, this is gonna sound really stupid considering how much I love it, but it's a little too Lucha Underground for me. And I don't mean that as in like I don't like Lucha Underground, but I like my Lucha Underground in Lucha Underground. I don't like it anywhere else.
Yeah.
I like,
Because nobody else
its
can do
own,
it. Yeah.
its own environment, and they have done a very decent copy of Lucha Underground, but like, it's just not the
What
same.
made LU work is they existed in their own world,
Yeah.
and they followed the rules of their own world.
Like, Magic was fine in their world.
So if you do Magic on an Impact show when none of the rest of the product follows that logic, then it just doesn't work.
And they always do have these like Lucha Underground bits that are like totally different to the rest of the show.
It's the one thing about when Impact, and Impact was bad at this point, so I wasn't really analysing the show as a whole, but it was like when the Hardys were there and they were doing the deletion stuff and stuff like that.
It felt
that was
so,
great,
yeah.
but it didn't.
The tone of the show.
I didn't like it in Impact because the rest of Impact was just nothing like it. It was a serious, like, sports oriented wrestling product, and I'm like,
Yeah.
just jarring as hell.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Agreed.
So Tessa Blanchard
It wasn't
arrives.
delightful.
Tessa Blanchard arrives at the arena. A bad actor playing a journalist acts like a prat, so she moves him out of her way forcibly and carries on.
She is awesome.
She is. Melissa interviews RVD. He talks forever, doesn't say much, and eventually says he has a certain place in his heart for Moose. Not sure that's what he meant to say, but whatever. And next up, we had RVD versus Moose. And the pre-match video package told me that Moose has improved a hell of a lot since his ROH days as a character.
Yeah, his heel work is pretty good. RVD's just not RVD anymore.
No, and this match was not good.
No. And Moose's ring work's not amazing, but his character works 100% improved.
So Moose attacks at the bell, but RVD soon fights back. He lands a cannonball from the apron to Moose, but eats a lot of the floor on impact. Not fun for him. Moose fights back and hits a nice stalling corner dropkick. Moose gets a long, kind of dull heat segment, which is ended when he charges at Van Dam, who back body drops him over the top rope onto the ramp. RVD gets cocky and Moose pokes him in the eye, but Van Dam hits a spinning heel kick before falling with the split-legged moonsault for 2. RVD heads up top, but Moose catches him with a dropkick and then pulls him from the top into a choke bomb for a nice near fall. Moose gets the better of a strike battle and spikes RVD with a DDT. He heads up top and goes for a 5-star frog splash of his own, but Van Dam rolls out the way and spikes Moose with the DDT for 2. Moose uses the ref as a shield, and when RVD moves him, Moose hits a low blow. I get too many flashbacks of the Jarrett Russo Dixie days of TNA when I see stuff like this.
Yeah.
Moose brings a chair into the ring, the ref tries to stop him, and the distraction allows RVD to hit the Van Daminator for 2 as Moose gets his foot on the ropes. And then RVD uses the chair again by drop toe holding Moose onto it. He goes for the 5-star frog splash, but Moose moves and RVD lands on the chair. Moose follows with a spear for the win. This wasn't great, and the layout of the match with all the chair and low blow stuff just absolutely sucked.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy this.
No.
But I knew going in this was going to be one that I wasn't going to enjoy.
Yeah.
Like, I think I found RVD quite flat. Again, like, I can't watch every week, but I do try to watch as much TNA as I can. TNA Impact. I literally can't help myself.
Yeah.
But like, I've not enjoyed RVD's return so far. I get why he's there, and I think RVD's still decent. I've not enjoyed it though.
Ironically enough, this gave me a lot of the similar feelings that Evil and Farley gave me. I just think Evil and Farley was slightly better worked, but they were both bad matches for exactly the same reason.
Yeah.
So Taya cuts a promo after sending Melissa scurrying. She says she made a deal with Rosemary to get rid of Su Yung and Havoc. She calls them emo and says she's the first lady of Slamtown, so she will walk out still, knockouts champ.
Like that.
And you know what? At this point in the show, I was like, I can't believe me and Jonathan have bigged up Slammiversary so much on the pod. We've talked about how good Impact's been, and then I was looking and I was going, apart from the opener, which was good but not great.
Average show.
Yeah, the show's kind of fell to bits, and the tag match was not good by the end, and RVD Moose sucked, and Eddie versus Cross was fine, but nothing to write home about.
But
thankfully, At this point,
the show turned
around.
Oh, didn't it?
So, Monsters Ball matches, Taya defended her title against Su Yung, Rosemary, and Havoc. I've been a huge fan of Courtney Rush ever since she did the strange Bedfellows angle in Shimmer with her and Sarah Del Rey, but never did I think she could pull off a character like Rosemary nearly as well as she can.
She's
absolutely
so
phenomenal in her role. So Don Callis says, after Havoc and Su Yung have hit a combined one move and almost ran into each other, that they are working well together. So Taya staples an 8x10 of herself to Su Young's face.
Nice.
Sue puts a dog collar around Rosemary's neck and then puts the other around her neck as an impromptu rematch of the Demon Collar match they had breaks out. She hits a Hurricane Rana on Rosemary into a chair in the corner. Taya takes them both out with a ladder and then hits a version of the inverted sort of sunset flip kind of thing on Havoc onto the ladder. Havoc is lying on a ladder as the other three battle up top. We end with Havoc moving as Taya hits a German on Rosemary, who is superplexing Sue, and they all land on the ladder. Rosemary breaks out the thumbtacks, but Taya fights her off and hits a Super Dragon-style curb stomp onto the tacks, but Havoc breaks up the cover. Production screws up as we see a replay while seemingly Sue must have tried to pin Taya, which means when we come back from said replay, her and Havoc are arguing. Sue spits miss, but Havoc ducks and James Mitchell takes it right in the face. Sue then locks the mandible claw on Havoc, but she fights out. A table has been set up on the outside as Rosemary and Taya battle on the apron. Rosemary goes for a German through the table, but Taya fights her off and hits a side effect on Rosemary through the table. Sue is on the top rope and drags Havoc up with the mandible claw, but Havoc transitions into a top rope tombstone pile driver onto the tacks. Taya throws a chair. She did it really, really safely. All props in the world to Jessica Havoc because she
protected her
so well, and it looked like a great spot.
Yeah.
Taya then throws a chair at Havoc's head and pins Sue. And then we got another screw up as the ring announcer says, the winner is, like 3 times, and then just gives up as the production issues continue. But the match itself, really good. Like one of the best Monsters Ball matches I've seen since the original Monsters Ball match.
I agree.
Because they became very patterned with Abyss. And this was really good, and all 4 women absolutely brought it. Really well laid out. Everything about it was great. I loved this match.
Same. I'd be building Rosemary towards the title if I was there.
Oh, without doubt, yeah.
Because I like Taya, but I've enjoyed the women's division a lot less since Tessa lost the title.
I think that's because you've lost Tessa. Although I think if you put the title on anybody, it would have been the case that it would have been significantly
it would have
worse.
been a step down.
Yeah. But I do agree. I think Rosemary is the way forward. I think she's super talented, and I don't really know why she's not that. Because we keep saying like Impact's really good.
Yeah.
But the fact that she's still on a show that nobody watches is criminal.
Yeah. Kiera Hogan's also one to look at as well. She's just turned heel and is going through a feud with Jordan Grace as well. Like I think Kiera showed quite a lot of fire as a heel so far. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. So Melissa interviews Rich Swann backstage, but Johnny Impact interrupts and says he's taking the X Division title back to Slamtown tonight, where he, Bravo, and Taya are going to party all night long. They then sing all night long. They leave and Swann says he's the only one who's going to be partying all night long. This was a lot better than my notes make it sound, because I remember typing that and then reading it back and going, that sounds really stupid.
Lame,
but Johnny Impact and John E. Bravo singing all night long, all night was just absolutely phenomenal. Like, they are so good.
As if we've just sang on.
I know, it's bad. We do apologise for that, people.
Make sure you edit that out, yeah?
That I'm just going to leave it in because it's embarrassing. So next up we had
street cred.
We don't have any. So
what
next
do you
up,
mean? I do.
With who?
No one.
I was going to say.
Yeah, no one.
So Rich Swann versus Johnny Impact for the X Division title was next. Can I just say, Johnny Bravo following Mundo around Johnny Impact around the ring and throwing streamers every time Impact paused in each corner was one of the best things I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah.
They just get out to be the most obnoxious people in the world.
They are amazing at it.
Don Callis calls him a mark on TV.
No.
Somehow Callis is as bad at this as Josh Matthews is. It's just mind-boggling. And you know what? Like, a lot of people like Don Callis, and I just don't see it. I like Don Callis as a person. I think he's really, really smart when it comes to wrestling. As a commentator, I really don't like him.
I go up and down. So there are times where I think he's really good at, like, emotional stuff.
He's Matt Striker, isn't he? But like you've just said.
Yeah. I think he's really good at the emotional stuff, but then he'll just say something and I'll just be like, dude, like the fourth wall. Like, pretend it's fake.
Pretend it's fake?
Pretend it's real.
It's still real to me, damn it.
Pretend it's real. Yeah. Like, come on.
So Swan is just ridiculously over. Might have been the most over person on the show up until this point. He has the upper hand early, but Bravo puts some of the attacks from the previous match back into the ring, and then Impact complains to the ref, who assumes the ring crew didn't do their job and sets about cleaning the ring, and this allows Impact to put Swan on the middle of the top rope, and they then proceeds to do the awesome spot. So you know the spot where you've got, like, Flair would do this a lot back in the day, where you'd get somebody in a headlock, and he'd put their eye on the top rope and he'd drag their sort of face along the top rope, and the rope would sort of, in theory, scratch their eye as it's being dragged along. Impact did that to Swan, but he did it with Swan's testicles, because he crotched him on the top rope and then dragged him along. I thought it was a really, really good spot. So Swan fights back with a rolling spike DDT. He fights off a Spanish fly attempt and pulls Johnny, so he lands back first on the turnbuckle. He hits a series of strikes and falls with a handspring Phoenix Splash. No, I didn't mistype. That was a handspring Phoenix Splash for a near fall. He hits a twisting plancha and follows up with a beautiful top rope elbow drop for 2. Seriously, Macho Man would have been proud of it. Impact fights back and hits the Johnny's Edge, which is a really cool move. It's kind of like a... What was there? Do you remember James Storm's finisher? Like the I don't want to call it the whirly bird, but like he'd have them in like a Razor's Edge style position, and then he'd spin and turn it into a power... Eye of the Storm.
Spinning Razor's Edge.
Eye of the Storm, yeah. So, but he then transitions it into a rock bottom during the spin. It's really cool move.
Yeah.
And that got 2. Johnny goes for the springboard spear, but gets caught with an uppercut. They head up top and send each other to the floor after a strike battle. Bravo throws Johnny back in, and Swan makes it in at the count of 9. Impact hits a middle rope Spanish fly and then rolls through into the standing version, but can only get him a near fall. Swan fights back, but Bravo trips him. He ducks Johnny's attacks and hits a tope con hello onto Bravo. Impact misses a tope of his own, but when they go back in, Johnny hits a beautiful disaster kick and falls with Starship Pain for a nice near fall. Swan hits a cavalcade of strikes before hitting 2 lethal injections and a top rope Phoenix Splash for the win. Josh thinks it was a 5-star classic. It wasn't, but it was indeed very, very good.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Like best match on the card this far.
Yeah, definitely. So Michael Elgin cuts a promo backstage and says nobody likes him and he doesn't know why.
Irony.
It's because you suck, Big Mike.
It's because you're not very good at wrestling.
Yeah, well, actually, that's kind of ironic given what's coming.
I know.
But he sent Cage to the hospital 3 times, a number which are going to look really familiar tonight when he becomes the new world champion. He says Cage is no machine, but Elgin is unbreakable. And then we got Cage versus Michael Elgin. I don't know what the build has actually been like, but the hype video made it look absolutely phenomenal.
I haven't seen loads of it.
I was so hyped for this just off watching the video package.
Yeah, I haven't seen loads of it, but from what I have seen, it's been enjoyable. But there's a reason why it wasn't the main event.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
So Cage runs wild early before hitting a nice tope con hello on Elgin. Elgin fights back though and takes control after a dragon suplex. I wrote at this point they are going balls to the wall. I don't think this is going long. And it didn't go super long, but it went longer than I thought it was going to. Elgin hits a superplex for 2. He works over Cage's back and then went for the twisting senton, but Cage rolled out the way. Elgin catches Cage with a leg capture backbreaker. Cage fights back and hits a super kick before a springboard DDT, an 818 and the JMSI for a nice near fall. Cage hits cheeky Nando's and follows with an electric chair facebuster for 2. Elgin fights back and hits a deadlift powerbomb in an impressive show of strength. They trade strikes and Elgin wins out before landing a lariat. He follows with a sit-out Razor's Edge bomb for a very close 2. He hits the buckle bomb, but Cage explodes out with a discus lariat. Another strike battle ensues, which Elgin again wins, but Cage fights out of the powerbomb attempt and hits a buckle bomb of his own. He goes for the F5, but Elgin counters into a Canadian destroyer. Just absolutely insane, but Cage kicks out. Cage fights out of a torture rack position and backslides Elgin through so he can hit a knee strike. He falls with a powerbomb and an F5 for 2 as the crowd chants fight forever. He goes for the drill claw, but his back gives out. Elgin hits a series of strikes followed by a buckle bomb. He goes for the Elgin bomb, but Cage goes for a back body drop. Elgin holds on and tries to pull Cage over into a pinfall, but Cage drops down and pins Elgin. This was really, we'll get to the post-match in a second, but this was really, really good. And honestly, like, as much as I loved the main event, this was the best match on the show.
Yeah, it was.
And considering I really don't, I've always liked Brian Cage, but I really don't like Michael Elgin.
I don't like Elgin. Like, I've never rated him as a wrestler.
No, and I've seen him have a few really, really good matches over the years, but the majority of them, well, ironically enough, my favourite ever Michael Elgin match was against Davey Richards, and I don't like either man, but folks, the stars aligned on one night only, and they had a great match. But no, I thought this was really good. And honestly, if Elgin performs like this in all his matches, I won't hate having him around.
No,
I don't think he
agreed.
needs to be in the world title picture, but I won't hate having him around.
No, agreed. I think it's just a very solid upper mid carder for them.
So post match, Elgin grabs the belt out of Cage's hand and lays him out with it. He then grabs Don Callis from ringside and tries to attack him when a masked man comes through the crowd and hits a gore on Elgin. Why are we bringing Rhino into the company in 2019? I like Rhino a lot. I always have. But why?
I loved him like 20 years ago.
Yeah.
20 years ago. He was great.
I don't know what he adds to Impact in 2019. I really don't.
No, I really don't either. It feels like Callis helping a friend out, maybe.
So we see a promo for Bound for Glory in Chicago on the 20th of October, and then it was time for
Punk.
Punk. You just every time you hear a show is in Chicago, you think Punk.
I am being very facetious.
Yes,
there.
I know. So it was time for our main event as Tessa Blanchard took on Sami Callihan. They both come out with their own baseball bat. The
Tessa's
crowd
entrance was awesome.
absolutely loves Tessa, as they should.
She was the most over person on the show
She was.
by a country mile.
I would say by a country mile. Rich
But
Swann pushed her relatively close, but
decent margin.
a decent margin, definitely.
Yes.
I would agree with that. And she was super, super over. So they jaw jack, and Tessa runs wild with forearms, a tilt-a-whirl head scissor, springboard triangle dropkick, and 2 tope suicidas. She goes for a third, but Sami catches her, picks her up, and swings her headfirst into the barricade.
Yeah, that was, yes.
That was mean.
Stuff.
He then
stiff.
hit a Death Valley driver on the floor. Tessa beats the count, but Sami falls with an apron powerbomb. Tessa beats the count again. She fights back with a running neckbreaker, but Callihan takes her out with a big boot. Sami sends Tessa to the ramp and teases powerbombing her into the crowd, but she fights out and hits a nice cutter on the ramp. They both barely beat the count this time, and then Sami encourages Tessa to hit him, so she does with a series of strikes.
That section as well, where they were crawling towards the ring and they were both pulling each other back.
Yeah, that was really cool, wasn't it?
So good. Like,
Yeah.
the story, like, we'll talk about it all, but the storytelling in this match was out of this world.
So she hits a Samoan drop and then hits a tilt-a-whirl DDT for 2. Callihan fights back and hits the get out of here. He falls with a knee and a powerbomb. Tessa kicks out at 2 and Sami transitions straight into the STF. Sami goes for a pile driver from the top rope, but she fights out, kicks his legs out, and hits a jumping facebuster from the Shattered Dreams position, which was really well done.
It was really good.
Tessa follows with strikes in the corner. The ref tries to pull her off, so she elbows him away. Realising what she has done, she goes to check on him. Sami uses this chance to lay her out with a baseball bat. There's no ref, though, as Sami covers. Eventually, another one runs down, but Tessa kicks out at 2. Sami, unhappy with this, lays out the replacement ref. Tessa recovers to her knees as Sami talks trash and prepares to waffle her with the bat again. Tessa spits in his face and low blows him as he swings the bat. She hits him with her bat and follows with the magnum as the original referee recovers, but Sami kicks out at 2. She transitions straight into a crossface as the crowd reaches fever pitch.
Yeah, you could feel it.
And you know what?
Was there.
I've buried Matthews and Callis on this show, but they were great in this match. They were
Totally
great
agree.
in this match.
They nailed it.
Yeah.
'Cause they got so emotionally involved in the story
and wanted to see Tessa win so badly.
When I'll talk about how they were at the finish when you talk about the finish.
So Callihan stands up and hits the inverted jig and tonic, but Tessa kicks out at 2. She gives him the thumbs up, thumbs down, and Sami responds by hitting the pile driver for the win. This was a very, very good match. Tessa is an absolute star. Sami shoves the ref out the way post-match and hands Tessa her bat back in somewhat a show of respect. This was really good. I didn't think it was as good as Cage Elgin.
No, but it was my favourite match.
Probably on a par with sort of Impact and Swan, but it was just great and absolutely in the right place on the card. It definitely should have main evented this show. It was what everybody wanted to see. I do feel like it fell a bit flat with Tessa losing in terms of the crowd, but I don't hate that. I think they're telling the story, and I'm more than willing to see where they go with it. And if they are telling the story and this will continue, I think Sami winning's probably the right call for the first match.
I agree. So, the way I think, first off, I'll just talk about, like, at the end, the way that Matthews and Callis were, like, gutted at the end, and, like, they'd come along with you on this ride of, like, oh my God, Tessa's going to win. And then it was, like, right back down to earth of, like, oh,
they matched the arena as well, which was really
Sammy's
cool.
won.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, of course Sammy's won. You could see it in their voices. They were kind of like, well,
resigned.
Well, yeah, actually, like, of course Sammy's won. Like, but I loved it. Like, I know it wasn't the best match in inverted commas on the card.
It's still great,
but it was my favourite for the emotion and for the story of the whole match. Tessa Blanchard is an absolute star. I think there's a good chance that we look back, certainly the Impact anyway, and we look back and we say 2019 was the year of Tessa Blanchard.
Yeah, definitely
And
agree.
if I was them, you know what, right? If they're going to be bold
And
and
go
they're
into
going to
gender.
go, and they're going to go that intergender's okay,
Put the belt on it.
I am not being funny, yeah, and I've said this to you several times, haven't I now? Like, they should put the belt on her. She is the best worker they have. She is unbelievable. She has all the charisma in the world. She has worked against men loads of times, and she is the most popular wrestler they have. They should run with it. It would be huge for them as a company. It would get the mainstream appeal. You know it would.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Like, the whole, imagine them comparing themselves. Like, oh, well, Becky had the women's evolution and all that rubbish, but, like, Becky's still only the women's champion. Look at this. We do intergender wrestling. We treat women as equals, and our champ and our star is a woman, and she's one of the best women's wrestlers.
And you know
on the
what?
planet.
Like, if you don't like intergender, that's fine. Like, I don't have a problem with it. It is
I
very,
haven't got a problem with it
it's
anymore.
very specific, and I know not everybody's going to like it. So if you don't like intergender wrestling, that's absolutely fine. That's totally your call.
But there's a growing niche for it.
What I don't like is these people out there who are saying, oh, you can't take Tessa seriously if they put her against Brian Cage. The size differential's too big. Not being funny.
If a woman punches me in the face, it's going to hurt.
If you were fine with Rey Mysterio beating Big Show in
Yeah.
matches, you cannot complain. It is, at that point, it stops being, it's unrealistic to, you think women are less than men, and that.
Are you telling me that if Ronda Rousey punches someone in the face, like a male fighter, just because they're a male fighter, it doesn't hurt?
Yeah.
Of course, it's rubbish.
Yeah. So I don't see a problem with them putting the
Neither do
the
I.
belt on her.
Put the belt. In fact, I'd be building towards. How far is Bound for Glory?
October is
Oh,
20th of October.
Do they have time to
Yeah,
tell that
you've
story
got
in that time?
You've got 3 months. More than enough time to do it.
If ever there was a time, to bring back the Bound for Glory series, that is it.
I think it might be too late to bring that back. I think, to be honest, what we'll get Tessa versus Sammy in some kind of
Number one
hardcore
contender.
match at Bound for Glory. I don't know whether they'll move it towards the title picture, but I think that's probably Tessa's match at Bound for
Maybe they're going to run
Glory.
until like lockdown.
I believe they've announced that she's facing what's Sawyer Fulton's name in Impact. It's something Fulton anyway. Madman Fulton is that
Madman
it?
Fulton.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right. You're right.
She's facing him on the tapings that they're doing in Windsor. So
they're running with it.
So they're keeping going with it. The story's definitely continuing.
Like, she felt like a star, and it was
doubt.
obvious watching it. And have you seen the video from after the show?
Yeah, awesome.
Where like the crowd is just on their feet in applause for Tessa, and like it felt like something. Like it felt like they've got something, and I have more optimism for Impact than I have had in like 10 years.
Yeah.
Like 10 years.
Actually, probably directly 10 years, because about this, well, maybe a little bit later than this, like the final few months of 2009 was fantastic.
Yeah.
From sort of No Surrender on over, I really liked Impact at that point. So yeah, maybe since 2012, it's the most
but either way,
faith
like,
I've had in them.
I think we're both in agreement. Like Tessa Blanchard, they should put the belt on her.
Yeah. So I was kind of worried about this show, as we said, after the first 4 matches, especially given how we bigged it up. But thankfully, the final 4 matches were all different variations of great.
Yeah,
and they were all very different as well.
2 different matches.
You had the hardcore element of the Monsters Ball match, and then you had the X Division style Swan Impact match, and then you had the Big Hoss battle, but them doing lucha stuff at the same time.
And then the story, and then the story
heavy Tessa Sammy match. It was great, and just goes to show it's a circus.
Great show.
Yeah, really enjoyable show.
Like I said, like if you're not watching,
hashtag watch Impact.
And if you'd like us to, not watch Raw anymore or not watch SmackDown anymore,
dude,
just
stop trying to get out of
it. It's so bad. It's so bad.
So we'll move on to any other business now. There's only one thing we need to talk about here. Alex Shelley will challenge the winner of Matt Taven versus Jay Lethal, likely the former, for the ROH World Championship at Summer Supercard on the 9th of August.
I haven't seen much of Shelley.
He's literally just returned, but
Ring of Honor just need to sort themselves out.
The idea of Alex Shelley potentially winning the Ring of Honor World title warms the cockles of my heart. So yes. I felt we kind of had to mention it. Even
can he just reform the embassy with Prince Nana and the shrimp cocktails? Jimmy Rave.
Which if I ever had a wrestling promotion,
That's what you'd book.
I would book Jimmy Rave constantly.
So would I. He'd be a heel, and Prince
Heat
Nana
machine.
and Prince Nana would be his manager, and I would hand out toilet roll to every member of the audience before the show.
So we will now move on to our final segment, which is we attended a wrestling show last weekend.
Yeah, we did, and it was awesome.
Yeah. So we were in the centre of the ring. Towards the we weren't on the floor. We were the sort of next level up. It took place at the O2 in Newcastle
in the Tune.
Yeah, and I thought it was a really fun show.
It was. So really enjoyed it.
We'll kind of run through it kind of quickly. I'll just do a brief overview, and we'll then talk about the show itself
and what it was like. Yeah.
So, like I said, really fun. Smallman, I thought was really great at keeping the crowd engaged while simultaneously giving them a bit of a breather. Every time he was talking in between the matches.
I've only ever seen that obviously on like their videos and things like that, and how he genuinely, because it breaks it up, right? With you when you're chanting and all that, it breaks it up. But you're just having a laugh because he's saying things that are legitimately hilarious.
Because I'd love to see you stand up. When I watch Progress shows, I'll sometimes not concentrate during those bits because I'll take advantage to do something else. But it was really important for the live crowd because I felt like sometimes we just needed a bit of a breather in between the matches. It was
especially
a really good
after Dragunov Devlin.
Oh yeah, God, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So due to work and stuff, we missed all but the final 90 seconds of the dark match. But what we heard, it was really good.
We did.
The crowd was really into it.
The crowd loved the finish at the end, so it was a shame.
So, but the opener on the actual show was a lot of fun. Do Not Resuscitate, our great heel team, and Mambo in particular excels in his role.
He was hated, wasn't he?
Hated him.
Yeah, people tried obscenities at him for quite a lot.
I could do without Eva piercing my eardrums though. That's
you know what though? I hated it at the time, but looking back, how dickish is that?
No.
And Spike Trevor was good as well.
Yeah, totally agree. I really liked Simmons versus Mills as well. I thought it was a good little encounter, and the Mills losing streak story continues. But I was really impressed with Simmons.
So was I. Before we move on, I just want to say More Than Hype as well.
Yeah.
In their debut, that was amazing considering that was their debut.
Yeah.
3 wrestlers who clearly have chemistry and obviously work really well together, and I enjoyed them. And I really liked the Mills
Simmons match.
Simmons, I forgot his name. Jern Simmons, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I enjoyed that. It was at first I thought it was going to be just a standard squash.
It was a weird. It was almost like an extended squash, wasn't it?
Where he had opportunities.
Yeah.
And
it was really weird,
and just didn't capitalize on them.
I thought it was well worked and well booked, and kind of continued that story. Yeah. So Holidead versus Candy Floss was okay. Everywhere I see Holidead, I see people getting excited to see her, and every time I see her, I just think, that was pretty poor.
I was not impressed,
but. This was no different, but the match was fun when Candy Floss was working her holds.
There was a lot of Daniel Bryan influence, wasn't there?
She's super over, and she's really great at the technical stuff, which made it all the more sour when she lost.
Yeah, there was lots of Daniel Bryan arm work and stuff, you could see it. And I really liked her. I think they should be pushing her above Holidead.
Totally.
But Holidead is facing Tony Storm on the same show as the Dark Order.
The CCK.
No, the same one.
The same show as the Dark Order.
Dark Order on.
Right. So next up we had Ilya Dragunov versus Jordan Devlin.
Oh my God.
This was match of the night.
We saw a 5-star match, didn't we?
And one of the best of the year. Both guys are just supremely talented and absolutely stole the show just before intermission. Honestly, go out of your way to see this match. It was just phenomenal.
Perfect.
There was a couple of spots that really stood out to me. The Spanish Fly, when Dragunov kicked out of the top rope Spanish Fly,
everyone was
when he kicked out the Brain Buster,
there's
literally just there was a point where I just stopped saying words and I just got so excited I just started
making noises,
randomly screaming.
Yeah, we just kept turning to each other, just going that was pretty much that was our conversation for about a minute.
And obviously Dragunov won to become number 1 contender. It was absolutely phenomenal. I believe, did he have his shot the next night in Manchester and lose to Valda?
He did.
Yeah, which, I'm sure that'll have been great too, and kind of wish we could have seen that, but
yeah,
I was more than happy with what we got here. It was absolutely fantastic.
Totally agree. Loved it. Great match. We thought it was a 5. I remember we said afterwards, we were that was a 5-star match.
Yeah, I'm not sure it was. I think it was really close though.
I don't know what was bad about it, what was not perfect about it.
I think it's just I was caught up in the moment. One of those things when you reflect it. I'd like to watch it again. I'd like to watch the...
Right, maybe we should do that
yeah.
for a closing segment.
Yeah.
We'll rewatch
Rewatch
that
the match, yeah.
and then maybe like next week or something, we'll rewatch it and give another judgment.
I'll have to see
of
whether
it.
it's available from Progress yet.
It will.
I don't know how
I'll
quickly
keep
they
an
get
eye
their
out.
chapters up.
I'll have a
but
look on the Twitter.
We'll buy the show and we'll have a look at the match again, because it was honestly phenomenal, and I have no problem watching that match again. Put it that way.
No.
So the Paul Robinson Primate stuff was good, but nothing really to write home about, except for the fact that Robinson's just an absolutely phenomenal heel. David Starr versus Banks was really good. Like, I didn't know what to expect because I'd never seen Brent Banks before. Do you?
No.
No, and I was really, really impressed with him.
So was I.
David Starr's super charismatic, and he just oozes charisma. But this, like...
It wasn't a super match, was it?
No, but I think Banks was the better
So do I.
performer of the two in the
Stars
ring. Not the performer, better wrestler of the two.
Yeah, we said, didn't we, like, Star is all about his charisma.
And
his
he's a good worker as well, but like...
Because he's your favourite wrestler's
favourite wrestler. Yeah. So... The main event was exactly what you'd expect, as Kingston and Volta just tried to destroy one another without any weapons. Volta retaining was the right call, and I'm still not sold on Eddie Kingston any more than I was 15 years ago, but I thought the match was good. And
I enjoyed it.
Kingston worked really hard. I'll give his credit to him. Sometimes you see guys come over when they're sort of
lazy
relatively big indie stars in the States, and you see them work British shows and they're just there for a paycheck. You could not accuse Eddie Kingston of phoning this one in. He gave it his all, and they had a pretty good match. I definitely don't think it was the best match on the show, because that absolutely went to Dragunov Devlin, but they had a pretty good match.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Like, it was like I've never enjoyed Eddie Kingston when he's not involved with Chris Hero, but at the same time I really enjoyed it.
Who's your hero?
It's Chris Hero.
Yeah. Just checking.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I thought this was a really good show. It's super fun live. I suggest anybody who has a chance to go and see Progress to just go see them live. Like,
it was just cool being part of that audience.
Yeah.
Like, it does like not in a bad way, it has like a cult aspect about, like a cult appeal, doesn't it?
And you know what? I think Progress is not the promotion it was during the regression years,
Havoc,
and the Skrull feud, all that kind of stuff. Like, there was a few years where they were one of the best promotions in the world, and I still think they're really good. I just think they've lost it a little bit, but this show reminded me how fun it is to watch wrestling live. And honestly, if you've got a chance to see a Progress show, even if you don't think the company's for you anymore, or if you don't know anything about the promotion, go see a show from them, because I tell you what, next time they're in Newcastle, I'm there.
Well, and we're going to do our absolute damnedest at some point to get down to a ballroom show, because I'd love to be at a ballroom show. Before you even think about signing off, there has just been a humongous announcement.
Okay.
So on Raw tonight,
this
was 4 minutes ago from WWE's official Twitter account, just announced Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, Baron Corbin, I was going to say Antonio, but Cesaro, Braun, Lashley, Rey Mysterio, Daniel Bryan, Orton, and Big E will compete in a battle royal to determine Lesnar's SummerSlam opponent on Raw tonight. The brand split is officially dead.
Who wins that?
I think it's
Roman?
I think it's just going to be Rollins, don't you?
I don't know. It could be Roman. His storyline with Shane's now ended, and Shane's obviously going to beat Kofi for the WWE Championship.
You know what? If it was me, I'd have Bryan win, but I don't book that company because I have better ideas about what professional wrestling is. I you know what? I bet you'll happen. I bet you Big E has like a long run.
Good, because Big E was awesome last night on the pay-per-view, so we will kind of discuss that at a later date. So we will get back on track. You will have your usual weekly podcast dropping soon when we get a chance to record that. Then we'll record the Extreme Rules show, and obviously we will then be back with this week's podcast. So hopefully you will have about 4 podcasts coming to you within the next week, and then we can be back up to date and keep going with this show. So is there anything you would like to add before we go tonight, Jonathan?
You know what?
Sorry, we're out of time. We will see you soon on the Two Man Booth.